My heart pounded as I hid in the backyard. What they did was as if I had never existed in this house. But I had proof otherwise. This is my home, and I will reclaim it. With the hidden camera in my hand, I watched Roberto and Catalina enter through the front door with the keys to my home. Roberto opened the door with an arrogant gesture and went inside, followed by Catalina, who carried a folder under her arm. I saw Catalina touch the sales contract on the living room table while Roberto looked around, as if inspecting every corner. Fury consumed me, but I had to stay calm. They had to be aware that I was present. I reassured myself with a sigh that my pulse wasn't detectable, and continued recording with the camera in my hand. Catalina opened the folder and looked at the contract, while Roberto went to the kitchen as if searching for something. "Roberto," Catalina said softly, "do you have the bank papers yet?" At that moment, a shiver ran down my spine. The sunlight streaming through the window didn't reach the shadows of the house. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but I seemed to see a strange shadow behind Roberto. The sales contract hung on the wall like a menacing specter. I stared at it as he went over the lines with an unrelenting gaze. This was my home, and I would reclaim it. The phrase echoed in my head like a mantra, giving me strength to persevere. Each passing day intensified the pressure of the upcoming trial. Roberto and Catalina believed they owned everything, but I had irrefutable evidence proving their legal fraud. I practiced my testimony before the mirror for hours, seeking a firm gaze, a steady voice, unshakable conviction. The hearing was fast approaching, and every detail mattered. "Elena, are you ready for this?" Miguel, my lawyer, asked with a serious expression. "We simulated the hearing in my bedroom. Answer as if you were before the judge," he was instructed. I took a deep breath and began to speak. I remember every word I said, every gesture, every inflection of my voice. When I finished, Miguel assessed my performance. "Good defense," he said. "You're more prepared than you think." But I still felt the pressure, the weight of judgment on my shoulders. I couldn't afford to make a single mistake. We went over the key points of the defense together. The lawyer showed me the substantial evidence we had, the bank statement showing suspicious transfers, the emails between Roberto and Catalina plotting my marriage. We had a strong case, but I couldn't allow myself to relax. Until the trial ended, anxiety would be my companion. That night, as I reviewed the evidence one last time, I heard a knock at the door. I was surprised to see Roberto's lawyer, with a cold and calculating expression. He handed me a sealed envelope and said, "There's something you need to review before the trial." The message was direct and threatening. As I opened the envelope, a chill ran down my spine. It was a request for the delivery of documents. A shiver ran down my spine as I stepped into the courtroom. The air was thick with tension, pregnant with anticipation and hushed expectancy. I placed my folder on the table, a meticulous collection of contracts, bank statements, and email messages, evidence Roberto couldn't refute. "This is my home, and I will reclaim it," I thought to myself, recalling my mantra like a lighthouse in the storm. My lawyer gave me a reassuring squeeze on the shoulder before gesturing towards the stand. "Elena Garcia Martinez," I declared in a steady voice. "I am the legal owner of this property, and I have presented irrefutable proof of the forged deed." I described the deception step by step, detailing how Roberto had manipulated the documents while I was abroad. Roberto, seated across from me, met my gaze with an impassive expression of derision. His lawyer quickly intervened to defend the validity of the sale, claiming that the signatures were authentic and that I had not presented any formal objections. The judge, a stout man with a stern countenance, listened attentively to both sides. After a brief period of silence, he pronounced a provisional suspension of the sale, pending a review of all the evidence presented. A spark of hope ignited within me. I could feel relief and adrenaline surging through my veins. Regarding the plaintiff's request for DNA testing, the judge said, "It must be formally submitted at the next hearing." Her words hung in the air like a promise. The battle was not over, but a crucial ground had been gained. My heart pounded as I observed the scene from the back of the room. Roberto and Catalina smiled with a confidence that made me seethe with anger. They were as if I had never existed in this house, but I possessed evidence to the contrary. A forged sales contract, "This is my home," and I will claim it. I crouched down to retrieve the small envelope containing my evidence and felt adrenaline surge through my veins. The criminal lawyer representing me gave me a look of support, and I nodded resolutely. It was my moment. When the judge announced that the provisional sentence would be read, I stood up abruptly. "Your Honor!" I shouted with a powerful voice that drew all eyes to me. Silence enveloped the room. Roberto and Catalina looked at each other in astonishment. "What is happening?" the judge asked, his face etched with confusion. "I have irrefutable evidence, Your Honor," I said, hurriedly unfolding the contract before everyone present. "This contract, presented by Roberto and Catalina as legitimate proof of the sale of my property, is a forgery. I have discovered this thanks to the evidence I possess." The judge observed the document carefully, his eyebrows furrowing in doubt. My lawyer, Antonio, spoke up. "Your Honor, we request that you take into account the forensic report prepared by independent experts. This report demonstrates without a doubt that the signatures on this contract are forgeries and do not belong to Elena, the rightful owner of the house." With a thoughtful gesture, the judge took the report and reviewed it carefully. Finally, he said, "In light of these findings, I provisionally suspend the ruling until a comprehensive evaluation of the case is conducted." Roberto and Catalina looked stunned, while I smiled with relief. The battle wasn't over, but we finally had a real chance to win. "Your Honor," Antonio said firmly, "we also request that an analysis of the signatures on the contract be carried out using DNA to confirm their forgery and establish the identity of the true author." The judge nodded slowly. "A DNA study will be crucial to clarify this matter. I request that the legal parties provide the necessary samples as soon as possible." I felt cold sweat on my palm holding the DNA report. "This is my home, and I will claim it," I murmured to myself, reminding myself of my mantra. The judge looked at me with an intensity that pierced my soul. I knew this was the defining moment. Roberto, with his serene face as if nothing were amiss, chuckled silently on the other side of the courtroom. The evidence I had, that DNA test that would match the original contract, it was the only thing that could change the course of everything. Your Honor, I began, my voice trembling but steady. "We have here a report from the National Institute of Forensic Medicine that demonstrates the forgery of the signature on this contract. This report indicates that the signature does not belong to my uncle Roberto, as he claimed." Then, as if reading a prophecy, he said, "Ariathi's signature on the sales contract is false." A wave of euphoria washed over me. I had done it. Roberto paled, his face now reflecting the anguish I have always felt. The judge continued, his voice echoing in the silence of the courtroom. "Ye's sales contract is nullified as fraudulent. The property returns to its rightful owner." Elena, my heart pounded with force. Perhaps the struggle had been worthwhile. Maybe my home would be safe. I felt a mixture of relief and satisfaction as I stepped onto the carpet of my family home. Victory had never felt so good. My grandmother, tears streaming down her face, embraced me tightly. "This is your home, Elena, and it always will be," she said, her voice trembling. It was as if those words had melted away years of pain and anguish. Roberto and Catalina left without a word. The lawyer accompanying them whispered something to them as they descended the stairs, but I couldn't hear. Minutes later, my lawyer entered the room with a document in hand. "Here is the deed of restitution," he said. I signed every line firmly, as if sealing my right to return home. "This is just the beginning," I told the lawyer, recalling the mantra that had kept me strong throughout this ordeal. "This is my house, and I will claim it." I looked at the desk where a copy of the sales contract was carefully stored, one of the key documents that exposed the charade of my uncles. Then I observed the family photos on the wall, each one a precious memory I had never forgotten. The feeling of belonging was indescribable. The air of dusk filtered through the windows as I settled into the sofa. My grandmother was reading a book beside her, and I felt as if life began to make sense again. I could hear the sound of birds singing in the garden, a melodious concert that filled me with peace. I stood up and went out to the back patio. I opened the windows and let the wind blow through the entire house, as if it were purifying every corner of this place that had always been mine. I let the wind carry away the thoughts of the past and took a deep breath. It was a new beginning. I sat on the living room sofa, as if my own house were a foreign place. My grandmother looked at me with eyes full of compassion as she recalled the original signature on the sales contract, the document that assured my right to this property. "Elena," she said in a soft voice, "what they did was as if you had never been present in this house. But I have proof to the contrary." I stood up and walked towards the table where the contract lay, a paper so familiar yet now laden with meaning. I spread it before me and traced with my finger the transfer clause, a line that perhaps was the only barrier between justice and impunity. "Roberto and Catalina won't get away with this," I murmured softly, my voice full of determination. Then I opened my laptop and checked the emails. The seller's notification clearly stated, "The sale of your property has been completed." A surge of fury coursed through me. I took a deep breath and called the notary who had been present at the original signing of the contract. "Good morning, Mr. Martinez," I said in my most composed voice. "I need to confirm the validity of Roberto's signature, but he hasn't signed anything." The notary remained silent for a moment, as if processing my words. "Elena," he finally responded, his tone laced with worry. "There's something strange. Roberto's signature could have been altered by a third party." I entered the notary's office with a pounding heart. This purchase agreement was my anchor, my only proof that this house had always belonged to me. "I need to see the original," I told the notary, my voice firm despite the lump in my throat. Roberto and Catalina had tried to erase me, as if I had never been present in this house. But I had proof to the contrary. What they did was a mockery, a legal facade to sell my house while I was out of the country. "This is my house, and I will claim it," I thought bitterly. I took the contract and examined it closely. The words resembled the black ink, as firm as the one Roberto used when signing important documents. But something didn't fit. The pressure of the signature on this contract was different, softer, as if it had been made by a trembling hand. A cold sensation ran down my spine. "It may be my imagination," I said softly to the notary, "but the signature seems different." His face tensed for a moment before returning to its impassive expression. "I can request a comparative analysis of signatures," he offered. "If there is any doubt, we will confirm it." Her words gave me a sharp hope. I nodded vigorously. The following days were endless. Each hour that passed without news of the report was like a stab to my heart. Finally, the mail arrived with the resolution. Roberto's signature had been forged. My chest filled with fury and determination. But then, as I read the rest of the report, a new shiver ran down my spine. The date of the fake signature was after the purchase date. I called Anna's office, a criminal lawyer a friend recommended. The phone rang for several seconds before someone answered. "Hello, who's speaking?" "It's Elena," I said with determination. "Elena, what's going on? I need your help. My uncles have forged the sales contract for my house and sold it to someone else while I was abroad. I feel powerless, and what they did is as if I had never been present in this house, but I have proof to the contrary. What they need is a lawyer. Well, you are the right lawyer. Perhaps it's risky calling you like this blind, but I urgently need your help." "I understand, Elena," she replied calmly. "Let me see your documents and I will tell you what we can do." Then I realized that this was my only hope. I went to Anna's office in the city center, carrying with me the original sales contract, which I still kept locked away, along with a report from the forensic expert who had analyzed the signatures and declared them fraudulent. Elena handed the contract and the report to Anna, who reviewed them carefully. "This is serious," she said at last, frowning. "The signatures don't match. And this bank statement, there are suspicious transactions here." Anna explained to me that while she wasn't sure if she could get the property back immediately, she could file a lawsuit to nullify the contract and thus stop my uncles from illegally selling my house. She offered me a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Elena. I'll support you every step of the way," she added. "I've already contacted the police officers to inform them of the situation," but a tense silence hung in the meeting room. Anna looked at me with a serious expression as she reviewed the purchase agreement on the table. "It's written with many ambiguous details," she said finally. "But what's most concerning is that Roberto relied on that falsified bank statement to obtain loan approval. I have a feeling this is going to be complicated." A shiver ran down my spine. It was as if my own ghosts were haunting me, conspiring against me in silence. "I know," I replied firmly. But I have proof that it's not legal. That bank statement is false, and I am the legitimate owner of this house. Anna nodded. Exactly. We need to act quickly to stop the sale. We could request a restraining order on the property while the fraud is investigated. I felt relief wash over me at her words. This was what I needed, a clear plan, a decisive strategy. I'll do it immediately, I responded with determination. A new surge of energy coursed through my body. Although Roberto and Catalina had tried to erase me from existence, I would not give up. This was my house, and I would claim it. I then stood up and asked Anna to send the file to my assistant for a thorough review. As she typed on her computer, I checked my inbox for important emails. But just as I was about to close the window, a new message appeared on the screen. It was from the lawyer representing Roberto and Catalina. I was surprised to read the subject line, mediation proposal. A shiver ran down my spine. Mediation? Couldn't believe it. The email proposed a meeting to discuss a possible out-of-court settlement to the conflict, with a maximum deadline to accept the proposal within the next 24 hours. The bank statements I found were just the tip of the iceberg. Roberto and Catalina had acted with brutal audacity as if I had never been present in this house, but I had proof to the contrary. I had to go step by step, looking for every anchor, every detail that could give me an advantage in this legal battle. My goal was to recover my property and evict my uncles illegally. This is my house, and I will claim it. Then, I thought of Marta, the kind neighbor. Perhaps she had seen something, heard something. I summoned my courage and went up to the backyard, where I always saw her watering her geraniums. "Hello, Marta," I said with a forced smile. "I hope I'm not bothering you." Marta nodded. "Elena, what brings you here? Have you seen Roberto lately?" she asked in a voice as gentle as the water flowing from her shower head. I told her about my situation, trying to sound confident and composed, but my voice trembled slightly when I spoke of the supposed sale of my house. Finally, I asked for help. "Marta, have you seen Roberto recently?" I questioned, a flicker of hope in my words. She pondered for a moment, stroking a red flower with her slender fingers. "Yes, I saw him a few days ago with a notebook in hand. He seemed very agitated, as if he were working on something important." Marta offered me a copy of the notebook Roberto had left on the patio. "I found it here," she said. "Perhaps it can be of help to you." When I opened the notebook, my heart skipped a beat. There was a photo of Roberto's signature, but with a different date than the one recorded in the sales contract. And the ink was different. The mark was subtle, like a dark line running through the letters. It was the evidence I needed. I immediately contacted the police and told them everything, describing the notebook photograph and the signature with that distinct ink. I was filled with a confusing mix of relief and determination. I had found a crucial piece that brought me closer to my goal, recovering my house. I had to find the thread leading through this deception. I decided to speak to the estate manager, a taciturn man who always looked at me with suspicion. He asked what I wanted to know, and I told him I needed information about the sale. "The bank," he replied in a rough voice, "needed to settle that outstanding debt. The loan was high." It became clear to me. Roberto and Catalina had taken advantage of my absence to sell my house at a low price, but the money did not belong to them. They had a well-calculated trap. Then I remembered the bank statement I had found in my old desk. I examined it carefully and discovered a hidden clause. If the payment obligation was not met, the bank would have the right to reclaim the property immediately. "This is my house," I murmured to myself, recalling my motto. They wouldn't take it from me so easily. I called the criminal lawyer Roberto and Catalina had hired at the time. I needed him to legally analyze that clause in the bank statement. "Elena, this is a complicated situation," he said seriously over the phone. "The bank has a powerful legal team. They could even sue you." I froze. The weight of the fight became more tangible in that instant. Roberto and Catalina were willing to go all the way to maintain their deception. They hadn't just betrayed my trust. They were also threatening me legally. The library was my refuge, a place where calm breathed between the worn pages of ancient books. But now, silence only reminded me of what had happened. My uncles had taken possession of my house, selling it as if I didn't exist. "That is my house, and I will reclaim it," I murmured softly as I opened Catalina's email. The first thing I saw was the electronic signature of the sales contract, a document that proved their legal fraud. I captured the IP address of the server that had sent the message. I knew it was a vital clue. I needed professional help to decipher everything. I met with a digital forensic expert, a man named Jorge who seemed as calm as the computer before him. "What do I have here?" "Interesting," he said as he analyzed the email. "Someone used a hidden VPN to send this message. It's difficult to trace its origin." His voice was soft but firm. His words filled me with a whirlwind of emotions: fear, anger, and a flicker of hope. "Is it possible to know who is behind this?" I asked, my voice trembling. Jorge smiled sadly. "Perhaps Elena. The IP address used to send this email shares the same network as Marta's notebook." His answer left me breathless. Marta's notebook? The only person who could corroborate my account of events. The lawyer's office was a whirlwind of papers and files, yet I felt at ease. At least in this I could exert some control. "This is my domain, and I will reclaim it," I murmured to myself, as I reviewed the emails, digital evidence that Roberto had left exposed. He was so brazen, almost as if I doubted myself, as if I thought I would never return. What they had done was as if I had never been present in this house. But I had proof to the contrary. The lawyer, a man with piercing eyes and a smile that didn't reach his eyes, observed my determination. "With this evidence," he said, extending the documents concerning the sales agreement, "we can nullify the deal." His voice was grave, but I felt a ray of hope pierce through me. Then I focused on the task, organizing every digital piece of evidence, every email, every minute detail that could strengthen my case, while the lawyer drafted the motion to annul the contract with meticulous precision. I added the forged contract and the forensic analysis conducted by an independent expert to the file. Every piece fitted perfectly into the complex legal machinery. The pressure was immense, but I couldn't give in. I knew this battle was crucial, not only to recover my property, but also to show Roberto that his game of legal impersonation had come to an end. As I submitted the motion to the court, the deadline circled in red felt heavy in my hand. "It's a bombshell," I thought, "but hopefully it will do the trick." Just as I believed my part was done, a notification from the court arrived. My breath caught in my throat. The motion was due next Friday, only 3 days away. Had we been so careless as to miss that deadline?